Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 79 of ZK Live. Tonight we have Katie from Fine Grit. Fine Grit is a custom cabinet and finishing shop. I'm excited to have her on tonight. I'm doing this from my house. I'm a little under the weather, so my dog will probably end up barking at another dog out the window in a minute. But we're doing it. So Katie will be on in any second. She's kind of a badass, so I'm excited to hear her story. There she is. I'm going to invite her now. Bear, come on.
This one's going to be a fun one. Dogs in the background. Bringing her on now. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
This is my first live. Should be very grateful. Just kidding.
It's an honor.
As I had to ask you how to actually get here.
How are you?
As well. I'm good. It's humid and gross here, so doesn't help with paint drying. That's for sure.
And where are you?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina. I want
Yep.
to say south. North. What part of North Carolina?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And what do you do
Rock
down
and
there?
roll, dude.
What is Fine Grit?
So it started out as just facilitating refinishes, existing cabinets that obviously nobody wants to remove and bring back to a shop. So I was trained to spray on site, spray conversion varnish, create a safe environment in people's homes. Prior to starting my company. And so for the first about 2.5 years, I was just doing refinishes, bringing in woodworkers to assist in modifications and things like that. But over the last probably 2 years, we've custom cabinet shop. So I'm not actually offering very much as far as refinishing goes at this point. I'm getting old and crawling around and, doing the whole on-site thing removes me from the shop as well. So anybody that is interested in learning, I would love to continue to offer that, but it's just a high risk, big reward, but high risk thing for me not to be the one to actually do it. So
what made you, like, it was just the physical part of it that made you leave the field and go into the shop? Because like starting a shop and like the size of yours and all that, like that's a big investment and a big deal.
yeah,
How did that happen?
I have no idea.
I love it.
I, up until about a year ago, well, I would say probably 6 months, had just no idea what I wanted Fine Grit to actually turn into, to be, to, grow into. And so it was just kind of organic the way it was happening. And it happened so fast over the last, 6 years that I all of a sudden was like, hold on. I don't even have like a grasp on or control I felt over the growth and what we were going towards and how it was gonna, morph into something else. And so I had to kind of take a step back and be like, what do I want out of this? What is my end goal here? What do I want to persistently pursue as far as projects? If you can do one thing really well, people are just like, here, do all this stuff, And I was just like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden I just had lost any sort of like momentum as far as like what I actually wanted it to turn into. And then part of it, my body is just, every time that I'm on the floor, crawling around, doing it. It gets harder and harder every time. And so I like creating an environment for my staff, my crew, that they feel really led. And I've just found that me being here present more than not being present is the best way to go about that.
Yeah, there's a lot more control in a shop space.
Yeah.
It's fairly the same every day instead of like
never. When you're a custom shop, like, you know, everything is changing. Protocols are easy when it's like you do one thing and you do it consistently, but you know, a cabinet box can be kind of all across the board. Custom finishes and different commercial versus residential, all that just changes all the materials that we like to, you know, explore and use. It becomes very hard to have a consistent process besides just like cut, band, put together, finish, install. Other than that, like and while I'm still small, I have an awesome crew of 4 guys, but while I'm still small, I still need to have the last say in, you know, the larger, but I respect my guys. I mean, they, you know, I'm lucky to have the crew that I have, and finding good help is hard, unfortunately. And so, you know, giving freedom to make creative decisions, I love that I'm able to do that with them. But then, you know, at a certain point, the money doesn't come out of their account. The decisions don't really fall on them, and then the responsibility as well. So it is extremely beneficial that I'm present more than not, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big jump that goes from keep putting your finger on everything that goes out to now where I'm at, where that doesn't happen anymore.
And it's been cool to watch your change, because it means that it's a possibility, you know?
Yeah. It's scary, and it's not like it doesn't happen flawlessly at all. And you know, I had to be able to let go and, like you said, see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And go, all right, well, there's going to be some new challenges, but they should pay off.
With those changes.
Yeah. I definitely miss.
It's scary. It's exciting. It's exhausting. It's emotional. It's terrifying. It's all, you know, the good and the bad of, and there was no plan for this. It just kind of happened. And so I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a name. I just like, all of a sudden I was like, I'm doing this thing. And then I got jobs coming in. I don't have a LLC. I mean, it was just like, I never really had a moment to sit down and create a plan, you know? And I mean, with a plan, things change, obviously, but when you ain't got no plan, and then, you know, just the goal was to not have it be a hot mess. So I'm doing work to do that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people start that way. I started that way. I don't recommend that people start that way, right? Wouldn't you? Like, in hindsight, I wish I would have waited a little bit more and came in with at least some plan.
Right.
It would have made it less chaotic. I think the people who like start off and like crush right away are the people who come in with a real plan. Yeah. But that's not the reality for a lot of us.
No. Nobody really just has like extra time to sit around and like dream about these things and then like implement and, you know, create the environment and all that. And so, I mean, I am very grateful for the way that it kind of organically has happened. It is, you know, I've learned a whole lot about when people ask me about owning a business. That's one of the first things that I, you know, recommend is take a breather. I know you're excited about it. I encourage like seeing this thing come to fruition, but, you know, the outcome will ultimately come out better if you allow yourself a little bit of time to educate yourself. Like, I'm having to learn how to run a business while running a business. Like, and that's not necessarily like what I would recommend, what business professionals would recommend. And, yeah, I think the ones that are passionate about it will figure out how to make it work. But I wouldn't necessarily encourage making it work be a business plan,
Yeah, it's not best practice. I wouldn't aspire to do it. If you're there and you're already there, all right. But I talked to a young guy today who I've known for a while, and insanely talented craftsman and smart, and he's listening to that advice, and he has the opportunity where he could go out on his own right now, definitely. And that's where I was. And he's choosing to instead find a good company, go take a sales and management role, right? Because those don't exist for a lot of us.
Part of it, right?
As an employee.
Yeah.
And then when you do that.
And then learn what not to do as a boss and what to do and how one of the hardest conversations that I probably ever had was with my longest employee, who is, I love him. He's a phenomenal human being. He's seen me at really awesome points and really tired, emotional, letting him down points. And, the hardest thing to hear, but one of the best things to hear was like, you have to take care of yourself in order for this to work and to be a leader. And I think in hindsight, like, that would have been the best way to start. That is to give yourself a little bit of time and learn from my mistakes. I love it when, like, if I could save someone heartache or financial bad decisions or any of that, like, I relish the chance to, like, possibly be able to save someone from that. But, we maybe didn't have those people to listen or to hear from at that point. Or just we were stubborn as hell, and that's how it went.
I think that it's probably, for me, it was a lot of that. Like, I don't think I was a good employee. And so the really great companies, I wasn't humble enough. I didn't understand what it meant to run a business.
Yeah.
I was very entitled.
And that's common.
It was just like jobs showed up on Monday. They told us where to go. And I just think my boss is nowhere to be found. He's just like doing nothing, and we work hard.
And you were like, well, I can do that.
I can do that. Like this,
that's easy as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't an appreciation for all of the things that went into me having a place to go paint and a paycheck coming in regularly. Right. And, I just had no concept. And so I took it for granted.
And I think 90, well, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's very, very common when people are like, I know that I have a skill, wherever that may be. And, what's a couple of tax documents and like, and then you deal with like workers' comp audits. And like, that's just, it could just go for days. Do you have a good bookkeeper? If you can't find all the things, so it's like, sure, if you're good at what you do, it would be very easy to just go and get one job. But then to carry that forward and take care of finances for your family or for yourself, or, I think that the world in itself wants to encourage small businesses, but I don't think that they talk about the struggles enough. Of like, it's more than just like you show up and you do your thing every once in a while. Like, no.
It's not side
For the
work.
first 2.5 years, I didn't take one day off.
Yeah.
One day. And part of that is my decision, but I felt that I needed to do that in order for whatever reason, and some of it wasn't my decision, or I didn't have a say in it, but.
I think that we think that when we're doing side work, that running a business is like doing side work.
The same thing, and it's not.
And it's so far from it. And I think that's why I looked at him and I was like so happy for him, because he found one of the rare companies who has their stuff together and are going to give him an opportunity to actually manage human beings and do the sales and do the like see it from above.
Yeah, because how many hats at the start? I mean, you can't even count them, you know, which makes it really hard because all I really wanted to do was finish, you know, and when I'm in the booth, all these other things like are in my brain that are like, this is important too, you know, and besides just painting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I knew going into it, it was going to be hard because I was fearful. I was nervous. I was scared, but I was like, I mean, when else am I going to get this kind of opportunity to, you know, and I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. It is worth it hands down. But the way that I did it probably, well, most definitely I would heed caution on, with anything. You want to ask a girl to marry you and maybe not right that second, the minute that you decide it. You want to buy that house, but like maybe it's better just to take a breather, you know? Still like making it an option for your life and your life decisions, but like you know, you want to buy a fancy car. Awesome. Save a little bit of money instead of like go all the way into debt. It's the same concept as like any big decision that we make. I just think that sometimes it's not painted as a big decision. It's just kind of like a side gig, you know, and it do it well and want to see it grow.
Yeah, and I think what that ends up with is sort of what you described earlier and where I've been, where you're running so hard to just like stay afloat that all of a sudden one day you look around, you're like, what am I doing? Where am I going? I've just been like running through the woods,
survival
kind of in
mode.
circles.
Yeah.
And then some of us are lucky enough to get to a spot like where you are, where you're like, oh, I'm going to stop. I'm going to hire a business coach. I'm going to try to find some time to get outside of this thing and start to look from above.
Are we supposed to read these comments?
They're dangerous. They sometimes like take you off track. If people have questions, there's a question mark with a little bubble. That's the best place to put questions. Sometimes people are giving comments about what they think. But we have to be careful not to get sidetracked.
Okay, I'm here. I'm focused.
No, yeah. So what was it that made you decide to? I mean, you told me earlier you got a business coach. What was that? What started that? What was the impetus?
About the same time that I was like, what is happening? I was also just at a breaking point where I was emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted and felt lack of control, lack of belief in myself, feeling like I wasn't being a good leader, feeling like, you know, all the things that just kind of I had snippets of feelings over the, you know, the last, so I'm 6 years like this week or whatever. And, it was about like the 5.5 mark where everybody's like, if you make it to 5 years, you're golden. Right. And my 5th year was COVID. So, and I'm very, very lucky that our industry, we were able to still continue to work. And, you know, people were sitting at home just kind of like racking in the list of the want to do type of thing. And, but it was a rough year. And I think just in general, my level combined with the COVID, all the stresses that everyone, you know, went through. And then hearing people be like, I'm bored, I'm just sitting at home. And I'm like, I need a freaking like day off, you know, type of thing. Or just time for me to like think. But I realized that like time to think is not what I needed. I needed some guidance. I needed I've never taken a business class. I have never, I mean, all of this was so new to me. The one thing that I was really good at was finishing. And it's like when you run a bar, or when you're a bartender and the owner of the bar comes and says to you, I want to promote you to bar manager, which essentially means like you probably don't bartend that much and you're not a great manager. Just because you're a good bartender doesn't mean that you're a good manager of humans or of, all the other things that come with it. And so, a really, someone that has been along this journey with me, just kind of guiding, and I worked for him a long time ago. I had spoken to him numerous times about just like bawling tears, just like discouraged, exhausted, emotional. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing this for? Like, I could go and work for somebody and make 200, however, way more than I'm making now, right? And work like 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, paid vacation, all these things. Like, what am I doing? Is it just because I don't want to quit because I'll feel like a failure? Like, and then like sorting through those emotions of really, what am I here? Like, why am I here? Is it because I won't let it go? Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm gonna so Alan Tony works for Exalta Coatings, and he has been on the outskirts, but like standing behind me from day one, and he just said, sweet comment. Sorry. Okay. Love you, Alan. No, it was time. It was either like kind of or get off the pot type of thing. Like, what is the point of all this if I'm not getting to spend time with my family, my friends, I'm missing out on things, and providing beautiful spaces for people, but like, is that enough for me? Because they enjoy the space. I just enjoy that they love their space, right? So this person that has been in the sidelines, like rooting for me all from the start, was like, show up at 11 a.m. this coming Tuesday at this address. And I was like, oh God, what am I walking into? And he's like, just show up. Didn't tell me what I was doing. I was like, all right, okay. Showed up, met this guy, and I'm like, oh, I'm essentially being interviewed or interviewing found out that it was for a business coach. And I don't even think it was like I was extra tired. I just like had a lump in my throat for about 4 months of just, I need help. I need to like sort through my brain, and I don't even know where to start. And I agreed that day. We spent about an hour and a half, and I ended up bawling my eyes out, like in the middle of this coffee shop, like, whatever, deal with it, people. And it was either like, shut it down, just be done with it and move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, at least I made it to 5 years, right? Or get control over it, do the work to really be a good boss, be a good business owner, create an environment that is healthy and encouraging for people that work for me to want to do good things in the rest of their life. And out of the two, I gave myself a little bit of time and chose the latter. And I didn't start Fine Grit because I didn't want to work for anybody. I started Fine Grit because I knew that I had the drive. I knew I was stubborn enough to make it happen. Come rain or shine, come kill myself or suffer to make it happen. But there's a line, and I just wasn't in tune with the cutoff of like, hey, take a breather and really start to make a plan. Because if you have no plan, you go out wandering in the woods, you're going to get lost. And I was just lost, and doesn't mean you have to have everything figured out at the beginning. But what's the point of all of it if there's no end goal? You know, what a little bit of just path, not necessarily like you know where the road is taking you, but don't just take a random path and end up in the middle of nowhere, lost, exhausted, hungry, thirsty, all those things of, and I mean, you know, there are days where I'm like, what am I doing still? But I think that that's just letting fear and doubt in myself kind of take over or get the best of me. And people that know me, and I think you've already, like, you know, you can guess, like, I'm a stubborn little, you know, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it right. And I'm not going to cheat my way through it. I'm going to see it to the end. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to fulfill my commitments. And I want to create an environment for people to want to come to work and to want to be here and want to be a part of like something really cool that, you know, Charlotte has supported me and I've given back to Charlotte, you know, so I'm not done yet, but I'm going to do better. I'm working on doing better for myself and for my crew and for the growth and the longevity of it.
So what were the first couple things that you decided with your coach? Like what does that look like today? How did that go?
Well, I can tell you, I meet him every Tuesday. And so that was 4 months ago. And the first thing was like, I don't have a plan. I don't have a business concept of like where this is supposed to end up. I can't do this for forever. But I also don't think it's sellable right now, right? I'm not saying I'm done, but like, how do I get it to a better place, like in the next 4 years or so? And so part of that was like, I need to learn business. I need to learn, you know, how to budget for growth and things like that. So that was one of the things that I was pretty, you know, put at the top of my list. The other was being a better boss. I've been told that I put my brain on my face. And so tone and like, just because I'm frustrated doesn't mean that I need to like take it out on people, you know, in my crew. And so that was one of the other things. And then I would say third was to get better for me. Like, how can I create a healthier or healthier world for me? And not meaning like eat veggies or all that sort of thing, eat better, but, you know, or eat, because like lunchtime doesn't really exist. I forget, I just blow right through it, you know, but, and that's fine if I make that decision, but large scale, I can only be a good leader if I'm taking care of myself. And I hadn't really thought about myself really, as far as like what I'm doing in a long time. And so, I mean, I had selfish things, you know, like, but on the day-to-day, like business side of it, I was a hot mess. I still am like working through that. But I'll tell you this right now, sitting here 4 months later, even if it's somebody that you pay to just talk to, right? Counselor or just to like, but I needed to hear, if I respect someone, I will listen to direction, to criticism, to hard things to hear. If I'm there because I want to be, right? And I'm there because I want to be. And just the back and forth with him, still not even been in my shop. That's coming, right? It's just him and I talking about, you know, from a syllabus and from, you know, Okay, so one of the things was I had to write down every 15-minute increments of my day for 2 weeks.
Sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, it was so fun. Right. Okay, you're sweating, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, first of all, wow.
How do you
That
even
really,
remember to stop every 15 minutes? I feel like I would fail right there.
I mean, yes. No, I did not stop every 15 minutes. But it was really clear to me about 3 days in of like, holy crap, I am literally all over the place. Like, I'm in the spray booth for an hour, and then I, walk away from that, and I'm like, then I leave to go do a consultation, or I leave to do field measurements, and then I'm writing emails, and it's like, I have a shop brain and an office brain, and my shop brain can't even hardly form a sentence on an email. And every time I would go back and forth, it was like I was losing minutes after minutes just in trying to transition, but doing that all day. And it just is psycho to think. And so obviously, like, your day is different than my day, and our day is different than so-and-so. But for someone who wears so many hats, that was a quick, like, slap in the face. I have to block time in my schedule. And whatever I'm blocked for, that's all I'm going to do. All I should do. Because otherwise, well, I'm not getting anything done. I mean, I am, but I'm here till 1 a.m. and back at 6, And so the number one thing was to create some structure. Because me doing whatever it takes, anyone that knows me knows I'm here for the first 4.5, 5 years or whatever. I'll be here for 2 days straight and never leave. Like, if that's what it takes. But like, you can only do that for so long. Like, and then I won't wake up for like 2 days. How is that functionable? It's not, but it was just part of like my day to day. I just figured it was like what I had to do. No, like, there's a better way to do it. And I think that like hitting that moment for me it was super emotional. It was really eye-opening, really terrifying, because like, now that I've built this, what else would I want to do? Not saying I wouldn't want to do something for somebody else, but like, I've heard it's really hard to go from owning a company to then working for somebody else.
And what you were talking about earlier, I can relate a lot to those like martyrdom type of things of like,
Yes.
and I don't know about you, but I know for me, and I hear from a lot of guys, and now I'm like hypersensitive to it. I don't like to hear it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to glorify, just to make myself feel better.
I know exactly
I would
what you're gonna
glorify
say.
the
Mhm.
extra work and the long hours, and I would be proud. I used to be proud because I was
Why?
otherwise I would
Why
have
would
cried.
we? What? Right.
Now I hear somebody tell me that they worked Saturday for 14 hours and they're at a client's house at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, dude, that's
Oh,
not
boy.
the goal, and you're doing something wrong. Where
Right.
when I was there, I wore it like a badge of honor.
Isn't that interesting? I don't think I've ever thought about it like that, but you're exactly right. I've done the same thing. It's the thought that proves how much we care, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if I didn't care, why would I be here? Like, why would I do that? But it's like, you can care actually, and it shows more.
Yeah.
If there's structure and like we're taking care of ourselves. We're actually like enjoying life on the outside of like our business. But I've
But if
never
you're
thought
a
about
finisher,
it before. But
if you're a
that's
finisher
so
first,
spot on.
the thing that you love to do and the thing you're comfortable doing is working hard in the field. And the hard, scary
Right,
thing,
do that. Yeah.
the hard thing is to stop working in the field and do the other stuff. So for me, it was like procrastination through overwork.
Yep.
Right? It was like, well, I'm busy. And when I
gotta work. It's like,
yeah, like, what are you talking about?
No.
That job's
I'm
gonna get
on
done.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
wait a second. Maybe I should have slowed down and took a step back.
Yeah.
But that was really fear. Like you said, I was afraid I didn't know what to do. You'd make me sit in an office for 2 hours, and I was not very productive. If in the field, at least I felt like I was doing something.
Well, and I think that one thing that I've talked with my coach about is I'm kind of scared of what Fine Grit can do, what I can do if I got my shit together. Because, like, I mean, I got here, but, like, it was rough. Imagine, Katie, right? I'm, like, talking to myself. Imagine what you could do, what you and your team could do if it was, like, fine-tuned and really, like, structured. It's exciting now to think about, because I've already started to see what working on the business and on myself instead of working in the business. This is a big thing, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The result of that, and how, you know, the structure is so much healthier, and I feel like I have some sort of control over, you know, what I'm doing and where we're going, and my guys, my crew feels it. They know, they recognize that there's a change in me, and it's a good thing.
For me, it was also, you know, there was a lot of like self-limiting beliefs and a lot of head trash that I didn't acknowledge it was that. Instead, I said these things like, I'm referral only, and with the badge of pride, or like, I want to have a really long waiting list and only a couple painters and a high hourly rate. And it was like, that's because I was afraid to not have work. I didn't understand, you know, I set the goals lower because I was afraid of what it would take to go to that next level.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that goes along with like afraid of what it could be, because it's unknown, and that's valid. I think that there's nothing wrong with us, you know, being cautious or afraid, you know, but at what cost is that then trickling into all the other areas? And like, once you just decided that you were done with that mentality, look what started to happen, you know? And look at the people that were drawn to you and wanting to be a part of what you were doing. And that's huge, you know? Everyone says they want to be a part of, like, oh my God, it looks so cool to be, you know, on the team or whatever. But like, that's just Instagram. Like, yeah, you know, you can make it look real shiny and fun and cool, but, you know, at a certain point, like, I was just humbled by, like, if I fail this, okay, but I'm gonna do everything that I can, and everything means work on me and like my growth in this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, I do think that being prideful about it is not the route, which we both recognize, right? It's actually being humble enough to know when there is something that needs to be fixed. And
it's like when you're brutally honest, like when I'm brutally honest with myself, like today, it's like, okay, it's fine to say, like, have self-limiting beliefs, as long as I'm honest with, like, it's because I'm afraid to think any bigger.
And acknowledge
that's
that you're
why
afraid.
I'm saying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think doing so really opens up the opportunity to figure out how to grow out of that, or take the route that assists in learning how to work with that fear. It's okay to be afraid, you know? But the same way that we do procrastination is the same way that we kind of like overly puff out our chest and, you know, do the opposite of it. So, yeah, I mean, if a business owner says that they've never been afraid before, they're bullshitting, like, hands down.
Or they're massively underperforming.
Or they got money from daddy or something. I don't even know. But like, the minute where I started to realize I was then going to be responsible for people's way of living, like their paycheck. And it was on me to make it happen and to make sure that no matter what, that was always something that I could do. You know, that's scary, but I'm not afraid of it. It's just scary because it's the well-being of other humans. And but when I didn't let it kind of control me, but I saw it as an opportunity to, like, have a team, then it's up here, a lot of it.
Like when I don't know why for so long I was against having a large company. Like for so long. Well, I know why.
How many people work for you now total?
We have 9 painters. We have 6 right now, and we'll have 3 more in the next month.
Is that from the school?
No, they've all been to school, but we've got 3 new ones from Indeed, actually. That's what's working out.
Look,
but
my last 2 hires have been from Indeed. Hey, Indeed, sponsor Zach and I, okay? Just gonna drop that
but
in.
I think that I used to, like, I even very recently.
But you paid for it, right? It was something that, like, it ain't cheap. But let me tell you about. I did Craigslist one time, and one time only, and then I was like, oh my god, it's putting back into it. It's investing into it, and what a difference.
Yeah. And that's another one of those things, those head trash and those mental barriers that are false. And it's like, okay, so I don't want to have a large company. Well, I said that because I didn't want to learn how to manage people and run a company to the level that I would have had to have. I wanted to have a great, easy, everything together. And I knew that the way I am today, I couldn't run a large company.
No.
So I don't
more
have to grow
people creates more things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have my stuff together. So, but as I go, oh, wait, if I'm going to get really good at running a business, then there's nothing stopping me from having a large company.
Nope.
Like, that's
there's
not
actually
a thing.
nothing stopping you from anything, really.
Yeah. And it's like, so why did I, like, but I was too afraid to be honest with myself and say, I suck at running a business. So instead I said, I want to have a small company.
Because that was safe.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to acknowledge what the real issue was, really. Or one of the issues.
And I got to feel so freaking good and high on my horse.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a big company. Like, those guys are all,
And there's nothing wrong with wanting something small, right? There's nothing wrong with it. No. But it needs to be a self-made decision, not because fear has gotten in the way. And that's why you're making that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not yet decided on. I mean, it makes me feel really good to see more guys in the shop. And I love that, like, having a larger crew means that opens up other opportunities. Currently, I'm the finisher. One of my jobs. And, I've trained people. I've had a couple people that were here. One was here for 2 years. And he was great. But, that wasn't his end goal for his life. And I have found that that's the role that's probably the hardest. And probably, because that's where, my area to shine is. But I'm certainly not unwilling. It's more about finding that person that I could see being here for a long time. But up until about 3 months ago, I was doing finish not only for, it's just all over. So, like, I was refinishing, I was doing finish for other cabinet shops, and I was doing finish for my cabinets. And, like, what in the world? I look back, I'm just like, I mean, how? Well, I know how, because I didn't have a website. I wasn't really I was just kind of like skimming the surface of really, like, what being an actual business owner and being, like, plugged in really meant. And so, I'm, painted hands and all, like, I love it. But it's not sustainable for forever,
And I think back to like the point you were talking about of getting good at running a business. What I found as I've started to get a little bit better at it is you can attract and retain better people.
Yeah,
My first
if I'm
people I had,
more put together, yeah.
and then
Nobody
magically
wants
that
to work
person
for
that can
somebody
fill
that's
your
just
role,
like just a
yeah,
hot mess all the time, you know?
they don't want to be paid. The
Oh,
great
look,
people,
our girl's pro image. Hey,
yeah,
boo!
like they don't want to be paid cash. They
No,
don't want to have random hours. They
no.
don't want to be boss come in stressed out, freaking out. Like
Well,
the
you can
great
have that,
person,
but you're going to get exactly what you're paying for, which is inconsistency, no accountability, no reason why you should ever assume that someone's just sitting around waiting for you to be like, hey, can you come in for a couple hours because I'm a terrible planner and I, don't know what I'm doing type of thing.
I always look back and there was like people would do things that were not what I wanted, and they were not. No one would argue they were like the right thing, calling out or whatever. But I wouldn't be able to really get mad at them because I had done stuff so it was like I didn't feel like I had taken care of my side of the street, so I like owed them a break, and that was my
guilt.
life for so long. Yeah,
and
the guilt
will really mess up a really good thing, and I've dealt with a lot of that. I think it's a lot of the reason why I would stay late because I wanted to like kind of take some of like the craziness away from the next day for my guys. But really, like, I think it's once you get into this crazy spiral, it's hard to really be able to like pull yourself back out of it. And I mean, I'm so grateful that I had some people in my life that were really like, hey, like you need to like be able to see from the outside like how unhealthy this is, and we want to see you succeed, not we want you to shut this down, right? Like, but it takes this part, and I think that guilt can be a great thing at certain times, like where you may not recognize where you've messed up, but then somebody comes and calls you out, and then that kind of guilt is healthy. It's because
you can't keep having the same guilt over and over and over and over and over.
What's it doing? What's the benefit? Like, it's not doing, and then you're just carrying that weight around, all the time.
And it's like, well, I need this person, and I did this one thing that wasn't really fair, and I asked them to come in, and I asked them to stay late on Friday for 2 hours.
Or you let
so then they don't show up Monday
with it. Yeah.
Hey, they didn't show up Monday because they stayed late Friday.
Effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and instead it's like, as we build structure in my business now, and everyone has structure, and the people who respond to structure are now our employees, and the people who didn't, they left.
And people say they don't want structure because they just want to, like, it's easy breezy. No.
Everyone wants structure.
Everyone needs and wants structure.
Yes.
But I feel that a lot of small businesses, understandably, same way that I started, don't know how to gain control. So it's a lot of lack of structure, and that feels like that's the only way that they can do it. And
totally,
we've been there, but we're both saying there is room for structure. There is possibility for it. It takes work, and the good ones will put in the time and the work.
And it's incremental growth, and it's being honest and going, this is my problem, and I'm going to try to get a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
Right?
For myself and for everybody else, whether or not they're employees or clients or family members or friends. Because if we're not going to do it for ourselves, then at least we should do it for somebody else. But, like, more importantly, do it for yourself.
Yeah. It starts there and then it spreads.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about work on things for you, and we all have different battles, right? Like, and I, like you said, like, I kind of like let it like be a thing for me where people are like, oh my God, I've never met any other woman that's more than a hard worker than Katie. And that's great. But like, to what cost? You know, like you can still be admired or like respected for being a hard worker, but still get out at like 6 or 8, not 2 in the morning.
No, you don't have to be the guy that can drink a 12-pack and still drive. Like,
nope.
That's
it
not
ain't cute.
cool.
No,
like,
no. And you're putting
and
so many things at risk. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that metaphor, it goes to so much of life. It's like, just because you can, is that best practice? Like,
No.
is that really getting you what you want?
But you can means, are you getting away with it?
Exactly. Are you rolling a loaded dice every time you roll the dice?
I mean, this one, I fainted twice. Lack of sleep. First time, luckily nothing happened to me. It was in the shop. I was by myself. I was okay. Second time, I was not okay. Fell on my face, busted through my lip. Lack of water, lack of sleep, lack of taking care of myself. I mean, I got some lip injections, so, you know, that's a benefit. But I got a big old scar, and I got knocked unconscious. I mean, this is, like, it can go from, like, you know, completely sober, nothing wrong with me, exhausted, I get up, fall out. And, like, and then
you can take that and wear it as a badge of pride and never change. Or you can go, oh, wait, like, that sucks, and that's not how I want to be.
That's the worst badge of honor. Like, plenty of other ways to get badges.
Have you ever fainted at work? You don't know how hard I work. I fainted at work, and I did this to me. And you're like,
such a tough guy. Yeah. No.
Like, yo, buddy, is that getting you what you want?
I highly recommend that never happens to anyone in their career of owning a business. But just because that happened, you know, I was like, oh, wow. Probably should work on some things, like drink more water, you know, things like that. Like, yeah.
Paint School said, you guys sound like grown-ups. Thanks, John.
So grown up.
We're doing our best to be adults.
Yeah, pretending. Just one day at a time, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about finishing.
Okay.
You're an expert finisher. I held back a joke.
In a spray booth.
I held back a joke. I was going to call you a painter earlier.
Rude. Rude.
And that is a sore subject.
On me?
That's a sore subject with cabinet painters.
Yes, in a joke, yes. Fine line, sir. Okay. But I think in reality, I think that's a lot of where cabinet projects go wrong. Not saying anything against, but fine paints in Europe, it's meant for that purpose, right? Latex wall paint, no, right? And so people, rightfully so, are ignorant, because why would they need to know the difference? And look at all the mess ups. Look at all the chaos that breeds from not knowing the difference. And, you know, I think that being confident in your world of, there is all the room in the world to make jokes about painter versus finisher, right? But if you're not confident in your what you bring to the table, yeah, of course you're going to get defensive and do a puffed up chest and whatnot. But, you know, we all offer different things. Like, I look at some of the stuff that you do and I'm like, good God, like, there's no way, right? But we are in different parts of the same world. And, you know, our equipment is different. We still implement certain ways of going about it, but you're airless, right? I mean, you're no air.
We are air assisted airless or gravity fed automotive cup guns for the most part. We don't use airless very often.
Okay. Oh, so we're using the same stuff.
Yeah.
What equipment do you use in the what's your gun choice?
I'm a SATA guy right now. I know you're an Iowata girl.
Yeah, but you know I like Iowata for different reasons than you.
Also, I've never used a good Iowata. I have an Iowata W400.
I've not used a good SATA.
Exactly.
Actually, I take that back. One time, and it was very comparable. I don't really think that there's. I mean, my hands. I mean, I'm small, so the Ines Iwata, it's made by Japanese, and so just initially they've kind of fine-tuned the form, which helped me because I've got like hardly no feeling in this finger, and like half in this finger, and the weight of a gun and a cup definitely when you're spraying 10, 12 hours a day makes a huge difference. But
I think that I would love to put DeVilbiss' best gun versus Iwata's best gun.
I would too. I'd love to see them
Sada.
up against
And I
each
bet
other.
you they all end up pretty much the same.
They're all
I say that about all the
bullet
other
trigger.
pumps.
Yeah.
There's a
Do you
certain point that
use,
this isn't
3M?
rocket science.
Do you do the PPS or
We
Sada?
use the PPS, but we've switched to the Sada for final coat because you can give a relief valve.
Yeah.
There's a relief valve at the top.
And you don't do much upside down, really.
No.
No.
If we are, we might use the pressure pot.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times we use an air-assisted airless. I have run a Wagner and a Kremlin.
Yeah.
Air-assisted
Okay, I gotta
airless.
say, Kremlin makes a great pump.
Yeah.
And I was
I don't think
on
if you
a
put those
Kremlin
three
gun.
pumps,
Yeah.
I don't think that the pump, especially the pumps, I think
They're made to just kick stuff out.
Come
right?
on, what's the freaking difference?
It's all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And
at a
somebody,
very high level, the guns are pretty much the same. Like, there's some differences, but like,
what
it's
about
Yankees,
on site?
Red
What
Sox.
do you guys use?
We do take most of that same stuff to site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were like, I mean, I've always used a cup gun on site, even for like massive jobs, because I'm so used to it. Like somebody told me a long time ago, like, you kind of like have a 75-year-old man's heart. Like, I'm like, I think that certain things should be the way they are. And like, if it ain't broke type of thing, like I've come up with a system that I like to see how much I have left because I know exactly how much I can get out of that amount. And so I learned on a pressure pot at first. And that in turn, I kind of saw the pros and cons to it. But I also like the breath. So I use a charcoal filter on site, an air scrubber, and kind of you guys use something similar.
Yeah, we use all sorts of air control.
Yeah,
and movers and scrubbers depending on.
And sometimes you just need to let it breathe for a minute so that like you can see where you can actually see. And so I didn't actually mind the break of stopping, unplugging, filling up cup, letting it kind of, sift out and then carrying on. But, to each their own.
Yeah, we're spraying trim right now in a condo with the air-assisted airless.
And what kind of tip size do you have to use for the fine paints?
We're using a pretty small tip, probably I think an 06.
What?
Maybe an 09.
Interesting.
So we heat it and we thin it. So I have an inline paint heater that connects to my air-assisted airless.
So fancy.
I know.
I'm jealous. I love it. I love it.
That's the beauty of FPE is it's like super high quality paint, so it can be thinned. It's not already thinned at the factory. So we do.
So you're cutting it quite a bit.
We used to cut it a lot, and then we started adding heat, and we cut it less now. And the new formula came out.
It helps it flow out.
Yeah, because we test viscosity before every spray, right? Number 4 cup, test viscosity, and so that we try to use only heat with Holland Lac, and we got the viscosity that we needed, and it laid out great. And then he happened to be like, it was a sample board, and it happened to be like on the floor, and one of my guys had his knee on it while he was sanding the board, and it was sanding perfectly. And then he took his knee up and he had like squished the film.
Oh, yeah.
And so it had like perfectly skinned up and dried, but it was wet.
On the top. Yeah.
And so we realized we thin the
trouble.
primer all the way. We don't thin the primer. We use all heat and it performs perfect.
That's
but the
so
top
cool.
coat doesn't like that much heat. So we
Yeah.
do like a little 50-50, not 50, I don't know, we do a blend.
Well, but also you can see it flow out so much better when it's cut a little bit.
Yeah.
Most products in general are not meant to just pour out the can and go.
Especially,
but I do think that, you
yeah.
know, part of, you know, you can't control who can buy a spray gun. You can buy one at Harbor Freight, you can buy one at Home Depot, whatever. But when you're using stuff that's combustible, flammable, there's no requirement for the general public to just go buy something with no knowledge, no information. They don't know it needs to be properly stored, you know, all these things. And so you see somebody like on YouTube just like grab a gun and start spraying, and people are like, oh, well, I can do that. Sure, you can. Absolutely, you can do it. Outcome, who knows? Longevity, who knows? And then, but then, you know, that you can't just leave that in your garage in the dead of the summer, right? And everything's going to be okay. You know, and, yeah, I mean, I have mad respect for Fine Paints of Europe. I have messed with it a couple of years ago. You know, my level of high gloss requires about 15 coats to get it to its full. But I started using automotive on certain things. But typically Charlotte is not a high gloss, you know, area.
And all of our stuff is like fresh off the gun. We don't cut and buff. That's a time consuming thing I don't want to get involved in.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
And the risk, and there's all kinds of other things. No.
It's with oil, like, so with what we do, that concept to me is so high risk. Because if I'm going to break down, because I have to wait at least a week before I cut and buff oil.
Yeah.
So now if I take the room apart, my masking takes days to do. I take it all down and then I burn through one spot in a cut and buff.
Nope. And then
thousands
you got to do
of dollars to repair.
No.
I'd much rather obsess on getting glass off the gun than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that just in all across the board saves money, time, risk. You know, I think it's
timeline on the job. It's like, hey, client, let me come back in a week.
People are like, we don't want you back here in a week. Like,
get out of my house.
Yeah, like we're done with you in the house. Yeah, you know, I have a couple of friends that across the country that are using Fine Paints of Europe. Some are using, you know, because water-based lacquer has kind of exploded, essentially. Several states are not even allowing for, you know, solvent-based anything to be sold or shipped in, California being one. And so some of the guys at Anesta Iwata that I've gotten the pleasure of getting to know pretty well, they only spray water. And they are like, Katie, when are you going to go water? And I'm like, I would rather bathe in lacquer thinner than have to smell water-based. Like, it's just not, it's such a different system. But I will say that, like, Malaysia makes a great water base. And there are products that I've, you know, been asked to use on certain jobs, or people, you know, sales reps have just given me small portions to, you know, all in my free time of, like, you know, just playing around the shop kind of thing, like give it a whirl or whatever. But, you know, there's a world that, like, needs a whole bunch of different types of things. The one thing I will not use is pre-cat. Don't even try. No. I've actually never in my career sprayed any bit of pre-cat. It's always been conversion varnish. And, you know, so many people are like, it's so much harder. I'm like, no, you just work on it. You just figure it out. Like, if you can just pour it out.
So I have to use a digital scale to measure my material? I don't know how to do math. What are you doing?
Calculator, for God's sake. And, you know, it's just.
Yeah. If you mess up those ratios with CV.
Yep. But what end result are you going to get from something that literally is a dump and spray. You know, that can't be providing a good quality for, you know, long term or even for consistency. And so my background, before I started Fine Grit, I was in sales for Exalta. And so I really got a full-fledged of knowledge on kind of the back room of makeup of this product versus that product, and why certain things are, I mean, people are still using shellac, and that's fine, you know. Doesn't mean that just because I think conversion varnish is the best solvent-based material, doesn't mean that like everyone, that's all that anyone should use. It's just, it works for me and for what we do. And then I use other products when that works better. And, you know, but same as you use fine paints of Europe, I've seen some metallic, come on. You know what I'm
Vero
talking about.
metal, the metal.
Oh
stuff?
my gosh.
Yeah.
I was like,
polyester.
girl fan, like, how can I get some of this stuff? But
So I think that it's important to talk about, like, when we say best, people ask me, what's the best this?
yeah.
Right. Well, what are the parameters, right? Because somebody just asked, so latex, like advanced and Scuff-X is not proper for cabinets. And it's like, no, it's not that it's not proper for cabinets. It's budget and expectations.
That's right.
And
where those fall.
yeah, what is your client limited to? Because pre-cat is going to be the cheapest, fastest way to refinish kitchen cabinets. And if your client is like, we don't have any money, or you're in a market, or you don't want to try to sell people on a more expensive thing, fine, pre-cat's fine. Like, don't put Regal Select on some cabinets, even though it says to put it on cabinets, which is insane. Don't put a non-enamel on.
Right.
But
then there's also no other information. So like, you can put the best product on something that has not been properly prepped, fail, right? And so all those things also factor into like, yeah, not everyone can afford, you know, the best of the best. That's okay. There's a time and a place. But
I'm sorry, I have to like respond to this because it's like, I have such a pet peeve now. A97, you need to go work for an established painting company for many years, get the skills, get better than your bosses at all aspects of it, running a painting business, from doing painting to estimating to sales, then go start a painting company. Do not go start a painting company with no painting experience. I'm sorry.
Because then you're learning while other people you're going to be a leader while you're learning. No, it doesn't work.
It's a nightmare, man. You will do so much better to go humble
yourself. You're
going
to lose money, you're going to fail, period. Plain and simple.
Become a great employee and learn all the things that you don't want out of a company, but learn all the things that make that company run.
Yeah.
And it's going to take you years, but get humble. Don't act like you can just go start a painting company. That stuff makes me sick. Just
because you can go buy a can of something and a brush of something, yeah.
So we have single component pre-cat, we have single component advanced Scuff-X, right? Then Holland Lac and Eco fine paints are single component, but they dry to be just as hard and durable as a CV or 2K.
Yeah.
They have advantages and disadvantages, right?
Right.
They're going to take way longer to cure. So, you know, again, it's going to cost more for me to do an FPE job than to do a conversion varnish or a 2K job. You know, and then I think even from CV, there's 2K, solvent 2K is more durable, right? If you're going to have a countertop that you know it's going to get beat up, or you have a client's like, I'm going to beat my cabinets up. All right, you pay a little more, solvent 2K.
That's fine.
But it's like understanding all of the different coatings and then giving your client what they want. That's called being a professional.
Well, and a lot of times it becomes overwhelming for the client for them to have 5 different options. Here's your bottom line. Here's your middle line. Here's the next line, you know, because they're ignorant, rightfully so, right? So I could literally be like, this is the highest grade, and it's not, right? But I think that becoming really good at what you do is educating yourself on product as well, and knowing where and when to use it. So, you know, I had to learn that the hard way. Not in a disastrous type of situation because, you know, I wanted to make it right, but conversion varnish is not always the greatest thing to use on horizontal surfaces. That's not what it's meant for. Yeah. It's meant for vertical cabinets. It's meant for cabinetry. And there's nothing that you can read that argues that. And so if it's meant for a horizontal surface, that would be my recommendation for using on a horizontal surface. I have used conversion varnish on quite a lot of horizontal surfaces. Over time, they're going to fail. You know, it's just because you're never going to be there with the client every day of their life, every situation that occurs. A cleaning lady brings something in and wipes it, you know, all the things. So part of learning how to run a good business is the trials and errors of like what works and what doesn't. And just because it's great for one thing doesn't mean it's great for all things. And, you know, there are services that I hands down will say, I will not sell you a horizontal, like a top, because I know that it will fail eventually. And my recommendation, if you're wanting it for a larger durable surface, stone or concrete or, you know, all these other things are going to just be a better outcome for, you know, for a long term. But if somebody is fine with saying, you know, there's no warranty on it, okay. But I would prefer for my jobs to not be out in the world and people not know that there's no warranty and see, you know, the cabinets look great, but this desktop or whatever it is scratched and chipped, you know, but people don't listen. You say, don't put a wet drink on it or all, you know, and so let's just avoid the issue. I don't need to do everything. There's plenty of things for my company to do, plenty of things for, you know, other companies to do. I'd rather feed work to somebody else and have them do it, you know, and come away feeling like I've given them the best outcome possible. You know, but a lot of times, like, you know, people want to drop off products to me to try. And I'm like, if it doesn't suit, I don't want more stuff that's not going to get used. Like, number one, I have to store it. Number two, I have to pour it out and pay for the waste at a certain point. And number three, I would love to be at a place where like I'm just tinkering and mad scientist in the shop, you know, but like right now that's not really where I'm at. And so when there are new products that come out, I like to hear about them and see if they fit within like what I'm trying to do. But if not, you know, leave it to somebody else to give it a whirl and see if it works for them, you know? I got a buddy who's a master. He's such a bad, we can't. Such a
No, you can
awesome,
swear. I've been just
dude.
trying recently not to. I don't know why. I usually swear a lot.
Okay. You said.
I know.
You said a word earlier, and I was like, oh no, am I getting beeped out over here?
I have no idea why. But yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. I need to work
I'm like
on not
super
doing it as
subdued
much
right now because I'm like just had my second vaccine shot yesterday, and I'm like,
somebody just told you, watch out, Zach.
Katie, I just texted your page. Watch out, Zach. Exactly. That's why Katie's here. And
no, but you know, and the
friend,
other thing is that like, for when you were saying about you know, try and become better than your boss, like to that guy that was saying like I'll just figure it out. I want people to get better than me. If they work for me and they exceed past like my skill set, that means I have done my job, right? That they feel confident, they've gotten the knowledge to a certain point of what will make them a really good skilled finisher, painter. But, you know, at a certain point, like, even if they decide, you know, later on down the road that they're going to go work for somebody else, like, it just means that I'm able to pull back altogether and feel really good about, you know, obviously quality control, but at a certain point, like, I'm not trying to run this thing and have it only be like, I can only be so, that just speaks volumes of like us as coaches, teachers, and I love that you're doing that school. I have questions about that, but
Yeah. And that's, so there's these guys are still on it, and there's a bunch of guys who like,
yeah,
first of all, it annoys me that you don't, like, people don't have respect for this trade as a trade.
same.
And in a year of working for me, you're never gonna get, like, you could work for the best companies, and in 1 year, you're never coming close. You're not scratching the surface. You don't have any understanding of what you don't know.
No.
You know some stuff, but you don't
Right.
know what you don't know. And
Right.
if you want to talk about how you're going to win in a long game, it's going to be learning and learning and learning and building wisdom and knowledge, not just
And
knowing
then
how to copy and
respect
paste.
for what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I think that so many times people are like, oh, well, that flowed out great. Like, got that on lock, and it's like, no, actually, no. Because then what happens if you get a wrinkle or you get fish? Like, you barely even.
My bosses fix so many of my problems, and they set me up for so much success with a bunch of stuff I didn't know.
Right.
That, I just had a gallon of paint in front of me and I was painting. And,
right.
It's like you don't understand how much is going on that you don't know. And until you've like gotten years, I mean, people will be.
I'm still learning.
I know.
Like,
it just kills me. And then guys wonder why they have to win jobs based off of price and why they're not making any money.
Oh my God.
And it's like, well, you have to win jobs off of price because you're not an expert.
Right. Exactly. In the cabinet industry, 8 times out of 10, we've got painters that have a bad rep, right? Alcoholics, addicts. Same goes for finishers. It's like, you just got to be a little extra crazy to do this thing, right? And so many times when I was dealing with the sales part of it, I would get phone calls like, well, we just our finisher didn't show up. We just grabbed the sander and handed him a gun and told him to go at it, and that's it. There's no like, and a lot of times, maybe the owner doesn't even know how to finish, he just got lucky to have somebody that was just kind of crazy enough to just get in there and figure it out. But like, that's not proper training. Just because you've like gotten away with it or it worked doesn't mean that you've now figured it out, or even that you should ever do that again. Because just because it worked in that moment, how are you ever going to know if it's going to last? Or
in Battleship, when you hit a boat in Battleship, doesn't mean you know what's going on.
That's right.
And that you can reproduce it. It's like,
try that. Yeah, you just like make it look a certain way, but then you got to figure out how to duplicate that or do it over and over and over again.
Now change some variables.
Nope.
And
forget about it. You're gonna want to cry and then like never come back at that point.
Like, will somebody continue to pay you to paint things? Yeah. If that's all you care about, if people paying you to paint things some dollar amount, yeah, you can go out on your own. Don't need any experience.
Figure it out. Yeah.
But if you want to make real money, have a real company, then you need to go learn the trade.
People. Yeah.
Yes. And I was an apprentice and then a painter for 7 years, at least 7.5. I started working for myself, and I'm saying here, we're both saying here, like, I should have waited longer.
Yeah.
I should have then gone and been a lead or an estimator with another company and managed people and learned how to estimate.
Yeah.
And that takes getting humble and giving respect to the trade, that it is a trade that requires years and years of experience to learn.
And are we saying, like, look, a kitchen, let's not even talk about the rest of the house. A kitchen, you're in that every day. You cook in it, you make your coffee, you eat your bowl of cereal, you pour your drink, every day. You walk in and out of that room and use it every day. And you're giving Joe Schmo a gun or just hiring some random dude off of Angie's List or whatever to come and redo something that like is a part of your everyday space. I get it. Not everyone can afford you know, certain things, right? There's a time and a place. But if you can't afford what you've been quoted to do your project as a client or a possible client, then maybe you should just wait, you know. But the bathroom, same thing. I mean, your home is like where you spend your time. Sure, you don't necessarily maybe need like high gloss, like crazy, you know, all these fancy things in every room in your house, but the spaces where you spend every day, yes, why is it not like kind of raised to another level of, yeah, this is a skill, this is a trade. There should be schools to teach, there should be trade schools to teach this type of thing. And you know, people are like, why not start a school? And I'm like, hold on, one thing at a time, you know. But I got so excited when I saw you were doing that, because it needs to happen in order for our industry to continue to grow and be respected in the manner that it should be. And not just because I'm in it, but like because it's a part of your space that you spend every day in. Same as an automotive finisher, you know, like you drive your car every day. It should be done properly, right? And you know, you don't want some janky guy just from the side of the road building your structural part of your house. But you know, that happens as well. I just think that as we've grown as a world, instant gratification is so important to people that it outweighs the quality portion of it. Sure, IKEA, things like that, like we need those types of places, right? Like they're great for certain things, but they're not always great for others. And you know, my real pet peeve over the last about year and a half is these flatline machines, right? I think it's great to do high volume in certain areas, but when you got general contractors selling a high-end custom kitchen to clients, and they're getting flatline sprayed out of the box doors and cabinet parts, and there's like this much paint on a door, like you just brush it and there it's gone, right? You brush up next to it. The deception is it's so disappointing to me, of like, you know, of course I'm more expensive than a boxed cabinet. You get 3 choices of sizes, and you know, I'll build you whatever cabinet box size you want, you know. But if one company is saying this is custom finishes or custom coatings of any sort, and then everyone starts using the C word, it just, then no wonder the perception of price point and quality and where those two kind of line up is so skewed. It's kind of become like the daily battle for me to be like, I just need to like get on a platform and start talking about this like ridiculous word that people just toss in front of something. Like a custom cabinet isn't it can mean a whole bunch of different things. But when it comes to custom cabinet versus RTA or like pre-assembled, it means that you get whatever cabinet you want. You don't have color parameters, you don't have size parameters, you don't have storage option parameters. Literally, it can be whatever you want it to be. That same goes for custom finishes, coatings, whether it be Holland, like Finance of Europe, or conversion varnish. Like at a certain point, custom needs to get back to what it really stands for, and not just like this loose word that just sounds fancy, you know, or that
I think that we've done it to ourselves, though. Like, it's the mentality
yes.
that these couple people that have been talking about in here, the mentality that goes, I've worked for a year or I've not worked and I'm going to start a painting company. The mentality that's like, oh, I have no reverence for this craft and I think it's as easy as something I could just go start doing.
Yeah.
That mentality is what's out there. And when
it's contagious, really.
Yeah, and because it's easy. It's way easier to go find somebody who wants to take advantage of you and doesn't want to pay any money and they don't care about quality. And have them pay you. And then it is to go apply to one of our companies or an established company, humble yourself,
learn,
and go start sanding.
Right. Yes.
But if you do that
but that's that instant gratification thing that's so dangerous. It's like, well, I just want my cabinets white. Well, first of all, why do you want your cabinets white? Like, oh, okay. Second of all, if you're literally picking the cheapest person, like, what do you expect? You know, but the instant gratification then all of a sudden is the runner and the driving point of the decision, which that in itself is so dangerous.
And we can't blame the clients because the clients, if that's what they want, fine. But
they don't know. They're ignorant. They're not.
But if you want to find a cheap plumber, he still has to have certain level of qualifications and has done a certain number of stuff.
Isn't it interesting that our trade is one of the only ones that doesn't require qualifications or continuing education or any kind of like limit, any kind of really no requirement. You can buy all the things at all the stores, but then there's no like checks and balances point or no like, why can you call yourself a coating specialist or a finisher? Well, literally anybody could do that.
I could start an LLC tomorrow that says I'm a custom cabinet manufacturer and I don't have to do anything except for fill out some paperwork, right?
That's right.
But that's kind of, I think it's on us as an industry to, first of all, I think the biggest problem is owners not building companies. That's why I love what you're doing.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
I need to build a company where this young guy that's saying he wants to start a painting company can come into and be stimulated and taught and empowered to learn a craft in a positive atmosphere where they make good money and they don't go, I'm going to go do it on my own. Right.
Well, and they gain a little bit of fear because it's fear-based, it's respect-based fear. It's not afraid type of fear of like,
because I gave them like a real environment.
Right.
And they clearly understood that this is a profession and that they are far from knowing what their lead knows.
Yeah.
But if everyone shows up in random t-shirts and jeans in random cars and randomly does and just slaps paint on and there's no reverence for the craft.
Yeah.
Well, magically now, if you're in that environment, you're like, I can start a painting company tomorrow.
Easy. Yeah.
But if there was more companies that were established, that's why I do this podcast. And
I love it. I think it's so cool.
Right. And I think
that watch out, Zach. I'm just gonna start doing live. I'm just kidding.
Good. I think we all should. Like, this is a real thing. Because I worked for one guy who was pretty established and was pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I applied to jobs, I wasn't finding a bunch of established.
Tight with him? Do you still have a relationship with him?
No, I tried to. He wasn't that kind of guy.
Yeah.
He still had his limitations.
He should be really proud of you, honestly.
I called him one time
and tell him I was doing well. That boat of like, holy
But
cow.
he missed it, right? He missed it. He didn't empower me. He didn't keep me around. He didn't give me. I left because I wasn't being empowered and because he wasn't doing the best job he could. And I think there's a lot of painting companies that are run by guys who went out on their own without all the stuff. And so now it's just like this like epidemic, this cancer that just keeps spreading because so few guys get to work for established good companies.
And again, this goes back to if you're a good bartender, that doesn't mean that you're a good teacher of bartending. If you're a good painter or a good coating specialist, that doesn't, just because you're good at it, doesn't mean that you're A, going to be a good leader, B, can actually teach. And teaching, I think, is a lot harder than actually learning the trade, right? Because there's patience, there's knowing what everyone learns differently, and, being able to step away and figure out how different people learn, and how to do it encouraging, but then yet structured, all of that. That's hard. That's complicated, And so I think, to the point of like, sure, go start your own thing. But if you ever want to hire other people, training people is hard. It's time consuming. There are lots of frustrating moments, discouraging times, like on both the trainer and the trainee, and how to be able to walk away and say, I think we did good here. Like, I think you're to the point where, I can start setting you up to do jobs on your own. Like, just because we're good at what we do doesn't mean that training and that's such a big part of growth, right? Like, is the guy that you train first out of your company, is he still with you?
No, not the first guy. Because I didn't have my.
How long is the longest employee that you've had work for you?
Right now, 2 years.
Okay.
Because I'm evolving so fast as a business owner, where the people I had 4 years ago, I would never hire them today, and they wouldn't want to be in my company today. They wouldn't want the structure. They liked
because but that's a compliment to you, right? That means that you've done the work. You're evolving into the structured company where you don't want to draw those people in. You don't want to be attractive to those types of people, and that's okay. They'll figure their way out, Yeah. But to draw in people that really want to learn a career, and the fact that, like, the level of cost in how much things should cost to have things finished or painted, or sure, there's different levels, but like, we're talking about, like, why are people getting paid $13 an hour to paint walls and like and doing a nice job? Well, I don't pay my guys $13 an hour. I couldn't even imagine. Like, I got grown men here that have families, like, and I want them to take it just as serious as I take paying them, right? And if you're paying somebody, I don't know, that's probably, actually,
no, that probably happens.
That's a real thing. But like, $15, $16 an hour, you're going to get $15, $16, maybe even less than that, because then people don't feel valued at all. And
especially if you don't show them a ladder, right? It's one thing, like, we have some apprentices start at $15 an hour. We show them a ladder, and they're to $17 an hour within 3 months, or they're not there.
Right. If they come in with no experience and they want to learn, and that's part of it, like, but if I'm handing a grown-ass man a sanding block, right, and I'm like, this is your job. You're just the sander. What? No. That's somewhere where, like, we all, in my team, we all do everything. Like, my guys know how to prime. I'm not always the one that's in the booth. And until I got my big fancy slider saw, like, I couldn't use my older table saw. When there's a need, we all team up and we handle it. But, like, I think that when you're a part of something that isn't huge, it's important for your people to feel valued and encouraged for continuing growth, and like, there is a future, right? And part of my coaching has been, let's really see what kind of environment you can create for your employees, because how many people do you think have ever asked them, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Where do you want to see yourself? And when I was told that, like, it broke my heart. Like, I don't know who has ever, there have probably been people who have asked me that in my life, but, like, bosses, no, not really. It's, you show up here, this is your job, and, like, just get it done. And that's not A, encouraging, B, it doesn't encourage longevity of that. Like, we want you to stay. If it works, then let's see how we can develop you in other roles, if that seems like something that you're interested in. But like, you know, to know that like somebody on my team wants to do this in their future, like, all right, let me see, because you're important to me and keeping you around is important to me. Let me see how I can integrate that into, like, you know, and it works for both sides. For me, I get to create some, you know, an environment where we're always kind of growing in what we can do, and that team member or that guy gets to stick around because he's being given the opportunity to grow in what he wants to do. So, you know, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, like, should it be harder to start an LLC? I don't know. I can't control that, you know. Is it kind of a hot mess of how easy it is? Sure. An LLC is to protect you personally. So literally, a bad painter or just a Joe Schmo can go start an LLC, destroy somebody's home, and then shut it down and start another one that easily, you know? And so how else can we encourage respect and awareness for our industries? Like, I think it's by what we're doing, you know, by what you're doing. And I want to be a part of it as much as possible. I think that it's awesome what you're doing. And I think it's contagious, you know? I start to see like that you care, right? Because at a certain point I'm like, am I the only one who freaking cares around here? Like, you know, because those moments it feels like that, you know, but it is reassuring. And obviously I don't think that I'm the only person, but in moments I'm like, why do I feel like I'm always battling here? And I think in a moment of like the first time that you and I talked, I was like, oh, I really cannot wait to chat with you, because, you know, I realized very quickly that we both share such a passion for craftsmanship and for skills in our trade. And whether or not that be on doors or on full on rooms that are, you know, as shiny as a mirror can be, or on random things that aren't as large as a room, you know, at the end of the day, like it is reassuring that we're on the same team as far as like, we want there to be a larger respect and a better place to learn. And whether or not that be at my shop or at yours, but continually talking about it is exciting for me because, you know, I care a lot about it, and I know you do too. And there are a lot of other people that do as well. But having a space to actually talk about it, and a space that people can, you know, be here and listen is awesome. I don't know how you do it all. It's kind of annoying, actually.
I know. I'm actually, on that note, I'm not feeling 100%, so I have to wrap up.
Okay.
But we have 3 questions that we ask at the end of every episode.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
So I need a DIY painting tip.
I don't even know what to do with that question. DIY painting tip.
I mean, it could be for cabinets.
Okay. Prep is the most important thing. You can put a very low level coating on a well prepped door, and you're going to get 100 times the outcome over buying the most expensive product in the store and putting it right on top of your door.
Boom. I love it.
That's my first one.
I need your favorite piece of painting paraphernalia.
I got a Black Mamba Ernest Iwata automotive spray gun last year. And if y'all have watched the video on Instagram, it was featured in that video, but it is a powerhouse. It puts out a fan like this big if you're in need for it, or, you know, it can shrink down lower, but that's my favorite.
All right, and now I need the biggest horror story, worst, biggest mistake you've ever made that maybe you've never even told anybody. This is a safe space.
Oh, I
You
already
can let it
know one.
out.
I mean, it doesn't take but a second to recollect. I will say that refinishing is a big risk, right? You never know what's on there, what's been touched, how it was done originally, what they've been cleaned with, all the things. Same goes for furniture. And, I'm thinking conference room table, easy peasy. They wanted it stripped down, recoated, same exact color. I locked in the color, knew exactly how to replicate it. Stripped it down, stained it, looked beautiful. First coat of clear coat. We're talking the worst fisheye, like some pockets that big, some smaller than like a pin drop, all over. And we're talking 4 pieces that put together a 14-foot diameter conference room table. Okay. Tried to flood it out with the second coat. This was like 4 years ago. Made it worse. Freaked out, called 19 different people. They were like, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, right? We would call you if we had this issue. I'm like, okay. Stripped it down again. I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to clean it with naphtha. Oh, this is going to work this time. I know it's going to work. Stain it again. Sprayed clear over it. Even worse. I did that 4 times. 4 times. And we're talking like the orangest, ugliest stain color ever. Like you would want to like run away from it. And I mean, brought me to tears numerous times. And finally I was just like, I called the client, was like, I can't do this. Like, if anybody can figure it out, I'd already asked for grace. I'd already asked for being humble, right? Like, and they were wonderful and loving and all that. But I went back to the basics. And 4th time, stained it, used shellac as my starter because it's such a soft and less chemical based product that it allowed the wood to kind of just chill out, right? And I mean, I'll never forget. I was like, oh my God, like tiptoe away from it. Like don't look at it. Don't breathe on it. Like, and then was able to use, I have used Precat. I used Precat clear because it was less intrusive on the surface. And I think I maxed out at like 4 coats or something. And they were over the moon happy. I did the job. I changed my phone. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Shut my business down, ran far away. No,
Well,
but I was humble about. I was like, I want you to know what's happening right now. Like, I'm determined to make this turn out right. But you have to know, like, I'm stuck right now. I'm gonna, and definitely mad respect for, hey, anything could go wrong, at any point. And I think that's part of why I love it, because there's just a little tinge of like danger and risk and, and it always changes. So you're never going to get bored. That's one of the cool things about our jobs is that you may be doing the same type of thing, but every room is different. Every kitchen is different. Every color is different. And it's always morphing and changing. And for someone who gets bored really easily, this is actually a great industry to be in. So that's my stuff.
Love it. Katie, thank you so much for joining me.
Are you
This has
froze?
been awesome.
Huh?
Boom.
What?
We had a
I
couple
lost you.
lags there. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining me. This has been awesome.
Zach, much love to you. I support you from afar and up close, and I'm honored to be here. We'll do it again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. That was awesome. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'm definitely out of it tonight, but I think that was a good conversation. She has a lot of knowledge to share.
A lot of us can. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the Sunday night Q&A. If you guys are Patreon members. If not, I'll see you back here on Tuesday. Stay tuned.